I love Death Guard. I love all things Nurgle, my favorite Chaos God, my favorite Chaos Legion, whether it's Age of Sigmar, the Old World, 40k, anything. Nurgle is definitely my favorite thing, and Death Guard are of course my favorite Chaos Space Marines. Now, I haven't found a particular color scheme that I really liked for Death Guard to kind of make that leap to painting my own Death Guard army. I have it all collected, I have it all built, I have it all sprayed, but I haven't had the scheme that I really loved to move forward with. That was until last week when I did the kill team video and I painted up the Plague Caster. I absolutely adored how he turned out, so much so that I have since painted the rest of the kill team, and I do continue or plan to continue painting more Death Guard as time goes on. Now, in those videos, I asked you guys if there's anything else specifically for Death Guard that you guys want to see, and an overwhelming number of people wanted me to tackle the big man himself, Mr. Mortarion. So that's what I'm going to do in today's video. I'm going to transfer the new painting style that I have for Death Guard onto their Primarch, a model that I've been looking forward to and that has been hotly requested on the channel for years now. So I'm very happy to finally tick this off my list. Obviously, I've already painted this miniature. This is just the intro that I'm recording, and I must say it is one of the miniatures that I am most proud of the results. So I'm super happy with how he turns out, and I can't wait to show it to you in this video. Before I do just jump in, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons and channel members. Without you guys, I could not continue doing what I'm doing. So at the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much. If you're interested in getting some extra content from me, including an extra video every single week, do check out joining those two things linked below. They really are the difference between the channel succeeding and failing. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Okay, let's dive in. Let's get Mortarion painted. And here is Mortarion in all his glory. So he is sprayed in my typical manner, which I did an entire video on. So if you are curious about that, I will leave it linked in the video description so you can go and check it out yourself. But in essence, it is sprayed black and then like a heavy zenithal with a light gray. That's as simple as I can put it. I decided not to go for any sub-assembly. Do I think this is wise? I think he's a fairly open enough pose that it's not going to obstruct any particular part for painting. If I was asked to sub-assembly, all I would say is to leave the wings off. I just didn't know how you would hold the wings, you know, in any particular point so that you could paint around them. I think it would be a little bit more difficult. So I like the idea of it being mounted to the model for my personal ease of painting. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is grab a Plague Bearer Flesh and apply this to all of the armor on Mortarion. Now, I was surprised to kind of realize that Mortarion is not really all that much armor. He is, of course, wearing a suit of power armor. He has a Primarch. But his wings, his cloth, the chains, his weapons, all those other pieces kind of make up a much larger portion of the model than I was expecting. So this is all the different parts that are green, making sure to get the kind of funnels in between his shoulder blades and stuff as well that are meant to be green. It's quite an easy step. After that, we're going to go into Magos Purple, and this is going to be the contrast color that I use for the cloth. Now, the examples that Games Workshop give for this are a bit all over the place, and it's not really my style. I don't like it as much. So they have like his hood and cloth down to like his waist are purple, and then it fades down into this like crazy ghostly blue, which I think is supposed to represent like his like noxious fumes. Blue doesn't scream noxious fumes to me. And then his loincloth that I'm doing in purple here is red. To me, that's just a bit kind of all over the place with color. I'm not a big fan of it. So I decided to go for this purple color for the entire thing. I think the purple and green complement each other so well. He looks so sinister. And I think when you see the final result, that rich dark purple against the like toxic looking green armor, I think you'll agree that it's the way to go. It looks great. Now, obviously you can do whatever you want. You can give him red loincloth and try to do the ghostly blue if you so choose. I so choose not to. As for the next step, we are going to jump over to Skeleton Horde. And for this, it is all of the bone, his wings, the staff handle from his giant scythe. Don't forget the wings on the little fly Nurglings that kind of buzz around him, holding up his crazy Phosphex grenades. Any of those kind of bits and pieces across the model, go and try and find them and get them done. As you can see, I forgot the wings here. I have to go back and do it retrospectively. So hopefully with this in mind, you guys won't forget to do that as well. Even with just 3 colors on, he's already starting to look fairly swish. Now, this is the point where I would usually reach for a black for all like the soft seals and for all of the like piping and stuff like that. I decided to grab Rattling Grime this time because it is still a really dark color, really nice background color, but obviously it's a little bit more brown. So I think that'll tie into like the decay and the death side of Death Guard a little bit better than just like a flat black kind of surgical style. I don't think that worked well for him, in my humble opinion. Now, he does have quite a lot of pipe work, connecting him to his gas mask and his backpack with his cute canisters of poison and all those kind of other bits and pieces. So make sure you do take your time, like really kind of observe the model, try and find all those bits and pieces and get them kind of blocked in. From here, a very, very quick step, which is Guilliman flesh in his face. The only other bit of skin showing through is where his wings are kind of attached to his back. The armor there is cracked and you can see a bit of his kind of bulbous back. So make sure you go in there with the Guilliman flesh as well. You could do the same color as the wings if you wanted to, I suppose, but I decided to play it a little bit closer to the chest and go for the mask, the face color, sorry. Balthazar Gold blocked in all of the other metallics on his armor, so all of that trim. And there is quite a lot of trim on him. He is, you know, a Chaos Space Marine at heart, and they are crazy for their trim. But then there's also things like Lantern, his crazy pistol, and then, you know, large portions of his scythe are going to get done in brass as well. So I literally had the Games Workshop website open. I had the 360 of that, and I just kept rotating it around, trying to like spot all the different bits that are supposed to be metallic. But then, of course, you can obviously choose what you want to do as well. So I decided to, you know, make this panel brass and this bit silver and this bit bone. And you got a little bit of freedom here to decide what you want to do, especially on the side. There's no real great pictures of that. People kind of tend to do it a bunch of different colors. But I do like the colors I decided and where they went. I think the side looks really nice. I think where all the brass positioning is, it looks great. I decided to do all the sensor ends on the chains brass and then the chains themselves silver. And I think I got like the perfect compromise between the brasses and the silvers across this model. Time for the silvers. It is Lead Belcher will be the thing to base coat that in. Remembering that there is chainmail hanging off him. There's like the other parts of the pistol, the other parts of the scythe, bits of the gas mask, the spikes on the top of his head. Once again, the 360 on the website is going to be a lifesaver for this, so you can try and kind of figure out all the different parts that are supposed to be silver. The brass and the silver stage obviously are going to take a lot of time when it comes to the base coating. We're talking like 15-20 minutes a piece. For me, is long because I don't spend a lot of time painting miniatures. I like to get them done fast. Mortarion was originally planned. I gave myself a day and a half to do him, and he ended up taking 2.5 days to paint. So there's definitely more painting in a Mortarion than I was expecting. I think this was partially down to, I don't know, not realizing how much was on him, but also really enjoying the process. I thoroughly enjoyed every brushstroke of painting this beast of a model, and I'm so pleased with the result. It's one of the models I'm the most proud of that I've ever painted. Hopefully you guys agree with me when you get to the end and see the final result. You will like the result. And hopefully you guys know my usual standard, and you can see that I tried to step it up a little bit for this guy. Agrax Earthshade was then brought to shade the entire model from head to toe. Every little bit of him is going to get covered in a brown wash. Once again, that is that idea of, making him grungy, a little bit dirty, a little bit gnarly. Like, shouldn't be a black wash, shouldn't be a sepia. Well, sepia would have worked too, I suppose, but I think the brown is going to work a treat. I decided to put it all over the wings as well. The wings are going to take a lot of work. Not a lot of work, but there's something that I was still kind of mulling through how I was going to tackle them, so I kind of did them at the end. I threw some Firelands texture paint across his base, and then when that was dry, I added some Gryph-Hound Orange over the entire base, including the rocks. Then I drybrushed the base with Ryza Rust, and then drybrushed the base with Bone, rimmed it black, and that's how we did the base. Very simple. I've done it in a million videos before, not going to show you in this one. So here's the model when it is all dry and ready to be layered up. So we're going to tackle the armor first. We're going to go for Death Guard green base, and we're going to layer up the armor. So it's more like a feathering technique. We don't want to completely cover up the plague bear flesh that was washed with the brown shade. We just want nice streaky lines, like lots of it's called feathering is the ideal kind of description of what I'm doing here. The idea is to not make clean armor panels. This is Death Guard. It's not Ultramarines. It's not Blood Angels. It's not clean and beautiful and pristine. It's supposed to look mottled and kind of dirty and cracked and used and unnatural. Like it should have more of a kind of a texture of like wood or like cloth more than it should have of clean armor, if that makes any sense whatsoever. Hopefully it does. And as you can see, I'm going in here with a fine pointed brush and very quickly going in and layering up that. Now we are of course going to jump up to an even brighter highlight in a minute, and for that we are going to go over to Nurgling Green, which is obviously quite a bright and vibrant green. But it does work a treat for what we're going to do, because obviously I use a little bit of a trick to paint my Death Guard armor. make it stand out. It's a very easy thing to do, but I think the result speaks for itself. So like I said, we did the Death Guard green. We're going to jump up to the Nurgling green now. Basically, we're going to duplicate the last highlight we did, but of course, less. We want to go a little bit kind of further in, not as much, kind of the brighter bits that are supposed to be like higher up on the miniature. Anywhere there's less light, you're going to leave nice and dark. Obviously, his arm is upstretched, or the entire top of his arm, his fingers. That shoulder pad in particular is going to get that highlight. You know, chest, legs, all those kind of bits and pieces we're going to hit with this Nurgling green. You can see with the brush, I'm trying to leave behind very small amounts of the paint, but it is acting as quite a nice highlight to it. Now, but of course, this is too pallid. Like I said, this is like the before the last step of the armor. It's really nicely done, but it's not the tone that I want. And this is where I come in with yellow glaze. So the yellow glaze that I'm personally using is the one from Games Workshop, because I still have a couple of pots of it lying around, but it is of course discontinued from Games Workshop at this point in time. So if you want to grab your hands on it, bunch of different companies do the same thing. I personally will have tried the Too Thin Coats yellow glaze. It's exactly the same as the Games Workshop one. So if you want to follow along with this one, get your hands on that. It's the only paint I'm going to be using that is not from Games Workshop, would be that one. Everything else is grand. And as you can see, when the yellow glaze goes on top of the highlighted green, it turns it this awesome, like toxic green color. Everyone that's watched the video of me painting the Plague Caster for the Kill Team video seems to really like the tone of armor, and they really like the yellow glaze tip. So I thought I'd definitely follow that through onto Mr. Mortarion. As you can see, with the yellow glaze dried, the armor is definitely very Death Guardy. Very pleased with that. Whenever I get one part of a model like really done, I'm really pleased with the result. It of course pushes me forward to want to see what the model is going to look like at the end. So of course, seeing the armor at this point, I was super pleased. So I was super happy to push forward and get this guy finished. Okay, time to work up the cloth. This is where I realized there's more cloth than armor, because this took a long time to layer up the cloth. And because I went for the same dark, rich purple across all of the cloth, obviously that's going to take more time. So, like I said, that first purple color, I'm going to layer up all the cloth, leaving that kind of Magos purple contrast that was shaded down with brown in all the recesses and all the dark folds, all those kind of bits and pieces. And that Naggaroth night color is going to be used for the higher points. Now, for the Plague Caster, I did just jump up to that lilac color from Games Workshop. Tequila lilac? I don't even know how to say it, but the lilac color from Games Workshop, this one here. But I thought that it was a little bit too bright to go on such a large surface. What I did is I mixed these two 50-50. I know I don't usually mix, but like I said, I'm trying to get this guy looking nice. This is the Primarch of my army. So mixing two colors together, I think we can handle that for this kind of model. So 50-50, so the tone matches a little bit better with the previous color. And we're going to go in with that same kind of highlight that we did on the green armor with both the Death Guard green and the Nurgling green, that kind of scratchy highlight. We don't want nice smooth coats on anything. We want it to look quite rough. I think it's just the nicest way to highlight something that's supposed to be grim like this. Like I said, this isn't the cape of Sanguinius. This is Mortarion's cloth. It's demon infused and horrible and stuff. And the color and the tones, I think, match with the purple and the green really well here. I really like the final result. So yeah, I literally took my time. I made sure to not rush myself, because I was, like, one, enjoying the process, and two, it's such an important model that I wasn't keen on rushing for the sake of the video. So I didn't. I took my time, took an extra day. Hopefully it'll be worth it with the views. If you guys are enjoying the video, you want to make sure it's seen by more people, please do make sure you give the video a like. Share it with any of your friends if you are so inclined, and make sure you are subscribed to the channel. You have no idea how much that helps the growth. You can see the difference here between the kind of right hand side and the left hand side there. But this is the purple all layered up. And like I said, I think the green and the purple together look really good. I think it really suits that Death Guard aesthetic. I think all the cloth being the same tone as opposed to the way Games Workshop done it, I really like it. I think it's great. I would love to know other people's opinions on that as well. Do you think I made a mistake there? Do you think I should have tried to do the ghostly blue effect in the bottom? Do you think his loincloth should have been red? Why is it red? I don't know. Time to layer up all the metallics. So for this, we are going to go in for Lead Belcher again. Obviously, we're not going bright and vibrant colors, once again, because it's Mortarion. but the lead belcher is not going to be used just to highlight the... So sorry, my voice went there for a moment. It's not going to be used just for the silver parts. Also, all the Balthazar gold bits are going to get touch highlighted with the silver. As you can see, I'm just going for the sharp edges, little fine points. I don't want to like shift it completely from like the brassy color to silver color. That's not what we're trying to achieve here at all. We will also be adding a couple of other steps to the metallics as well. We want to add a little bit of extra flair to it. We're going to be making it kind of tinged a little bit purple. And then we're also going to be using some nihilic oxide at the end of the video to add that kind of oxidization to it as well, which I think will be super cool and really kind of polish him off. Really starting to come together now. I'm very much delighted so far. Carrick stone was then brought in. I have the air one here just because it's pre-thinned. It's very easy to use. Any Carrick stone will really work. And I'm going to use this to layer up all of the bone parts, making sure to get the staff of his scythe, the wings on the little fly guys. I did those in there as well. The big horns coming out of his shoulder pad, and any other bits and pieces that are like that. We will be using the same color to do the first stage highlight on the wings, but we're not going to be doing it with a tiny brush. I'm not trying to do scratchy highlights or anything. We're going to move over to dry brushing for that. So I'll talk about that in a minute when we get to it. Obviously, his scythe is a pivotal and key kind of part of Mortarion. So I really did take my time with this highlight, making sure I put on as many coats as I needed to get that kind of smooth coat of like bone, but not off bone. Like I said, these horns, this bone that has been taken as the handle of his scythe is millennia old. It's not supposed to be that kind of pristine, polished bone color. So I think having that more Carrick stone dead color to it, I think it suits Mortarion a little bit more. And I'm once again pleased with the result. There's nothing on this model that I kind of did where I wasn't like pleased with it after. You know, you do something, you're like, I'm happy with 90%, but if I could go back, I would kind of change that bit. I kind of just, yeah, was happy. So the wings are obviously in a very sorry state as it is. The rest of the model is nearly there. So I think it's time we actually started to put some color on the model. So the first thing we're going to do is, like I said, with the Carrick stone, and we're going to dry brush it. For this, we're using the Artist Opus round dry brush. And we're just going to basically smoothly apply a dry brush to this model. It's going to catch the raised edges, but it's also going to fill in the kind of middle membrane bits with that kind of little bit of a mottled color. I want to put a little bit more life into it. There was a little bit of blotching from the contrast and obviously the shade that was on it so far. So if we can remove those blotches with this first dry brush, then we're in for a treat. There is a couple of stages that I'm going to do on the wings, and I am going to go to an airbrush for it. You can, of course, do it with a brush. Here is the distinction between the left and the right. So the right has already been dry brushed with the Artist Opus. The left is the way it was after the shade and contrast. It's hard to see it when you're doing it, but obviously side by side, you get a pretty clear understanding of what you're doing. So what I'm going to do with airbrush is I'm going to have Plague Bear Flesh. I'm going to add a little bit of the new Turbo Dork thinning medium to that, so that I have a really thin coat of Plague Bear Flesh in the airbrush. And I just want to kind of, it's almost like glazing. It's glazing without a brush that I'm trying to do with the airbrush. I want to just get a little bit of hint of green and a little bit of hint of red into the wings, because obviously these are supposed to be, you know, natural, almost skin. So obviously with them being Nurgly, they're supposed to be diseased, they're supposed to be rotten, they're supposed to be gross. And I think going in with a little bit of green and then a little bit of the Druchii Violet purple color as well. The Druchii Violet I didn't get on camera, but it's exactly the same step. Just a couple of drops of Druchii Violet, a couple of drops of thinner, and then going across the wings and doing kind of little splodgy areas to make it look kind of green in some areas and bruised in other areas with the purple. Did really work a treat and really kind of elevated those wings to kind of the next level for me. Now, one of the important things for me is that, like, I really like Mortarion and I didn't want his wings to be his focal point, which I know is a bizarre thing. If you've seen all the videos of people doing them for like painting competition and stuff, the big flat wings is definitely, they like gravitate to that and they really work it in. The focal point, I want him to be the focal point. So time to get to work on his skin. Now, I'm going to be pulling from that Carrick stone again, obviously because the tone already exists in so many other places across the model. I think pulling it into the skin is going to be a good idea. I can't just go in with a natural skin tone. So obviously we had the Cadian Flesh. I just mixed in a little bit of Carrick stone with that. And then obviously we are going to add that Druchii Violet, the purple shade in now. We're going to thin that down quite a lot. We're going to apply that to his face and a little bit over the brass trim of the armor as well. This just helps with it looking a little bit aged, a little bit older. Like I said, this guy's ancient, 10,000 years plus old. Spends a lot of his time in the Garden of Nurgle, so he's not going to be in the best of condition. Hitting that purple over all of the skin. And then it's time to work up the rest of the face as well. So for this, we are, like I said, going up to the next stage, which is the Kislev flesh. Once again, that'll have a touch of that dark browny grey color in the Carrick Stone. And we're going to do a very light highlight across his face now. The final steps, obviously, it's just the very kind of tip of his crooked nose and top of his eyebrows, the very sharpest points of his cheeks. And then I went in a little bit later and I added Imperial Fist yellow glaze or yellow contrast over his eyes to give him that kind of milky yellow old eyes. And that basically did the face for me. I was happy with that. You can see the purple and stuff on the wings now. I'm sorry that I forgot to show it on camera. Nihilic Oxide is now introduced. And obviously for this, we are going to be using it sparingly on all of the brass bits. So anywhere there's like a rivet or something, we're going to put a little dot down that and drag it down. I even did it in some of the cracks and holes in the green armor, just to show that whatever metallics underneath that are corroding and seeping through and stuff. I spent a good bit of time on his scythe, getting that in between all of those kind of like rib cage style design that's up, but I fed it in there, the edge of the blade, any rivets, any divots, any dimples, any of those kind of bits and pieces across his ruined armor plate. We did a very small amount of Nihilic Oxide. Now hopefully you can see the purple and the green bruising in there. So after that, we're going to grab some Pallid Witch Flesh. We're using a flat-sided dry brush now, because we're not trying to really do much on the membranes. We just want to catch the kind of sharper, or sorry, not the membranes, the middle bits, the kind of softer areas. We definitely want to leave a lot of the color behind. This is just to make those membranes, the thing I meant to say, stand out a lot more. So as you can see, they are popping with the white now, while the kind of flatter areas are staying nice and weathered or beaten or horrible. This is the last touch of me on Mortarion. This finishes off the painting process for me. So we will now move over to showing you guys the final result of my Mortarion Primarch of the Death Guard. I love how this guy has turned out. He has been on my to-do list for so many years. And like I said at the beginning, I've had so many requests for him that I'm finally delighted to finally put it on my channel, have people being able to paint Mortarion in a very easy, very accessible way. Obviously, I used an airbrush for a few tiny steps. You can, of course, do that with a brush, no problem at all. So there is no airbrush required to paint this Mortarion in this way. If you have one at home, you like this result and want to emulate it, you can get stuck in and finally get this guy on the table. I know there's a bunch of people already on my Discord waiting for this video to drop so they can follow along. So I am very, very excited to see what people do in the next couple of weeks. Here is a couple of still images of this guy, so you can see some close-ups of some different areas. And we finally have what he actually looks like. Side picture so you can see a little bit more of the scythe. He's a very difficult miniature. There's the kind of bruise and green tinge to the wings that you couldn't really see in the video, but it still gives it away. The kind of gnarly, old, decrepit face, the oxidization on the brass. Like I said, he's hard to photograph the size and shape of him, so hopefully the last picture too will give you an idea of what he will look like on a tabletop. And I really hope you enjoyed this one, guys. Okay, guys, and there we have it. My Mortarion finally finished painting, added to my ever-growing little Death Guard army here. I mean, that's how most people start Death Guard army, right? They get a squad of 7 guys done, and then a Primarch. I think that's the natural order of things, right? I'm super pleased with how he turned out. I learned a lot even more about painting Death Guard as I was going through the process of getting this guy painted. I am so pleased with the result. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. You learned a little bit about Death Guard, about Mortarion, and a little bit more about my channel. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like, ask me any questions you want in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed. It takes you absolutely no time, costs you nothing, but makes a huge difference to the channel. And of course, please do think about joining Patreon and becoming a channel member, linked down below. Those two things really do make a huge difference in helping us to grow ever bigger projects, bigger videos, more awesome content for you guys. So thank you so much for checking those out in advance. I'll see you in the next video.